We're going to take a look at the game. I played in a tournament in California, and I was playing with black pieces against a talented teenager, a national master, Annie Wang, who's a young player. I don't know, maybe 12, 13 years old. Not younger than that. Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. D4. Knight comes out to F6. That's my general opening against. I play D4 myself. By the way, this is one thing I would mention briefly as I say, if you're starting out working on your chess up to the level of, I don't know, 1800, 2000, I'd recommend open positions. That's where you master your game better. Now, I say for a player like Annie, as you can tell later, once it got going, she was exceptional in the tactical dynamic game. But the best way to get those positions, tactical and dynamic, is to play E4 or D4. Generally. I think E4 leads to more open positions. That's what you get, more open battles. But okay, I think on the other hand, though, you could also think, well, if I want to develop better understanding of strategic game, maybe I should get into more strategic kind of positions. Maybe I should try to play more D4. Other than that, my suggestion for picking good opening, pick something and just stick with it. Okay? You guys, by the way, if it helps you, you're welcome to play the moves on your chessboards in front of you. Okay? So, okay, D4. Knight F6, okay, C4, that's the main move here. Recently I've been playing more of Bishop G5, Trompolsky kind of stuff, just experimenting. But C4 was my is the main move for white to play. This is my favorite to get advantage for white. And as black, I play E6, which leads to a couple different opening possibilities where white could play knight f3 or knight to c3. If knight plays to c3, what do we play? Yes? d5 is a possibility. That way we transpose into Queen's Gambit. Yeah. Let's give our friend right here an extra point. So d5, yes, that would be Queen's Gambit. But it might not be the most subtle way to continue here. What would be, if you play knight f6 followed by e6, what's the move you're going to pick here? Bishop b4, yeah. You give him 1 pointer in there. Bishop b4, and what's the name of this opening, Tommy? Huh? What's the name of this opening? Nimzo? Indian. Okay, good. Give another half a point. So Bishop b4, and my opponent. The suggestion is don't take your queen out too early. But in this scenario, might be appropriate since queen gives a little protection to the knight. The concept of Nimzo Indian defense would be to for black, from black's perspective, bishop comes out. Takes the knight, what happens? With the pawn structure. You get double pawns, and that could be a disadvantage. On the other hand, you get a pair of bishops, but the type of position that you get is a closed kind of position, so that bishop advantage doesn't necessarily immediately becomes obvious, but at the same time, your pawns remain double pawns. So, this kind of dynamic, which is fascinating. Okay, queen to c2, giving the knight a little support among all the moves that you could play here. Castle, d5 is a good move. I choose c5. Okay, putting a little pressure there in the center. There's a couple alternatives here, but really the best move for white to play is to take on c5. Everything else is just not going to work too well for white. So d takes c5, just releasing the tension right away. Kind of uncharacteristic, really, d takes c. But this kind of position, I guess that's the appropriate way to continue. Here, black doesn't is not forced to pick up that pawn right away. It's not gonna run. It's not gonna run away anywhere. Okay, there's nothing gonna happen that will prevent black from picking it up later. So we're just gonna castle and see what white is gonna respond. Because that pin right there, you don't want to take the pawn too early and break the pin, because that pin is powerful. So now white actually does play a3, which must be played in this position in order for white to keep fighting for advantage. That's just the way it is. I released a DVD series on this one. I actually explored this quite a bit. Bishop takes c5. And my opponent just develops the knight. Okay, so this is all pretty standard. One of Carlsen's early victories, I came in this position. Played against international master Shaposhnikov. And that was interesting. He actually picked the same way that I played. Before getting into it, I'd like to see... It gets a little strategic here. Okay, this position is kind of like it gets that positional. We gotta have a positional discussion. Okay, and it's primarily about what is what is white looking to do. White's task, I think, is kind of easy. Okay, what's the first thing you're gonna do for white? I mean, I know it's black's move, but what is white gonna do on the next move? Likely, it's white's move. Yep. E4 is a great move. Okay, let's give Tyler 1 point. Okay, it does kind of expose your position a little bit, Tyler, because you get a little situation here. But E4 is definitely a great idea to keep in mind as part of your plan. Bishop G5 is a great move. Okay, that's good. I wish I had an incredible game against Grandmaster Alexandrov. Okay, it continued something like this. Call it B7 to B6. I got my bishop over to F4. He played knight to H5. I played bishop to G5, and he played bishop to E7. I played, and here I committed to kingside attack. Okay, which if you're gonna play a kingside attack, how you gonna start it? How you gonna go about it? To start pushing those pawns, huh? G4. So first H4, give the bishop a little support. H6. It was something like this, I think. I might have. You can start storming. Yeah, you can start storming. This looks really beautiful for white. I think we had maybe a situation that looked more like this, where I just let that bishop hang, and then tried to develop an attack along kingside. It was a crushing victory, beautiful victory. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was a nice.
When was that?
It was one of the tournaments I played. Maybe 3 years ago. So then Carlsen game went on actually similar to what it is. The bishop on F4, G5 is kind of annoying. Okay, the secret to this. Here's what black wants to set up, and you guys give me the name of this opening. Okay, so here's what black wants to set up. Okay, one question for you guys: where should that bishop go? Okay, where should that knight go? Where that knight go? Hedgehog, by the way. Who said that? Good job. Good job. 1 point, sir. Right there. Yeah, I'm just gonna go grab the juice. Where should the knight, the B knight go? Where should it go?
D7.
Yeah, knight goes to D7. Okay, knight on C6 blocks the bishop. Don't want to put it there. Knight D7. Then you place the rooks, the queen accordingly, and if you said it was unbreakable or very tough to break through, that would be absolutely correct. Very nice, flexible system for black.
Do you play this regularly?
I like getting into this.
I've heard people say it's like a coiled spring. Like
Well-
you just you have this position where you don't have a lot of space, but
Yeah.
it's dynamic.
It's dynamic, absolutely. If you're patient enough, it also has to do with time balance. You just gotta be adopt that patient strategy and wait for that best time to go for the breakthrough, okay? And you do that in combination with your opponent being low on time. That's when you strike. That's when your opponent is going to have a hard time to deal with the challenges. We're going to get to it in a moment, and I'll tell you exactly what I mean by breaking through or going for a counterattack. So at this point, it's actually kind of a subtle move, a bit of a waste of time. I'll acknowledge that. Queen b6.
Can I ask a question?
Yes?
Would you ever want to play a5 so that white can't play b4?
So yeah, the question is, should I play a5? And the answer is certainly no, because it weakens the b5, a4. Really, you would have no chance to set up that hedgehog where it will be properly balanced. That pawn belongs to a6, so that because if you put the d6 pawn, knight b5, with enough pressure, you just won't be able to hold that. Yep. And b4 is actually what you would want to do though is, let's say we have the situation. Let's say white plays b4, we retreat. White plays e4. Now you could strike with a5. Okay, because now this one, white pushes forward, the c5 hold. White takes, obviously creates weaknesses. So now we got queen to b6. It's a the idea has a point, but I admit it's a little slow. It's not my kind of move. White plays e3, which is kind of good for white to begin with, and then I pull the bishop back. Okay. Now this keeps this bishop here on c1. Okay. So if b4, that's when we use a5, breaking up white's queen side. Now in this situation, I was actually kind of I was hoping my opponent wasn't going to do that. Okay, because I didn't feel like playing that kind of a game. Okay, I felt like outmaneuvering my opponent based on like the more strategic positional grounds, so I don't have to risk that much. Okay, because I'm aware, very likely, my opponent played in U.S. Chess Championship. Okay, and I mean she has the experience. Okay, even though she's young, she could be dangerous in one of those tactical dynamic battles. Okay, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take it easy and try to outplay her. But I was hoping she wasn't going to try one of those Carlsen type games where the game that I mentioned could beat the international master early on.
Carlsen does this?
They did this G4 stuff, and that's a pretty common, pretty standard idea now.
Some people call that the bayonet.
But yeah, you could throw that one out there. One cool thing Black could do is play this one right here. Putting that pressure on F3 knight. If you play e4, you block your queen, and that's a good time to pick up this pawn, possibly. Or if like bishop g2, the pawn is hanging, bishop b2. I guess bishop b2 wouldn't be too bad, still would be a nice legitimate sacrifice. But I was just hoping none of this stuff was going to happen, because now I actually take some risks. Even though, if you don't, as they say in Russian, if you don't take risks, you don't get to drink the champagne. Celebrate the victory, right? Right. So, okay, but those ideas were definitely in kind of within the realm of what could be happening here. Now, white could still go crazy, play bishop d2, castle long, and then try to go for that crazy attack on the king side. If you're taking a chance against a stronger player, that's the kind of strategy I would recommend. Okay, you wait around too long, you're gonna get outplayed. You might as well, try something courageous, right? Right. So bishop d3. Now g4 for the same reason of queen c6. That move just creates imbalance in white's position. So I play d6. My opponent castles, and right about now, this queen is not doing here anything particularly useful on b6. Now we need to pull it back, but really no rush at this point. I get my knight over to d7, and my opponent does go for b4, setting up a nice little spatial dominance there on the queen side, but it's not a big deal. I'm not even going to bother playing a5 here, because they say don't. It's earlier the bishop was striking that b4 pawn. White hasn't castled yet, so there was some possibility of creating weakness here. Whereas if you play it now, all you do is white's pawns are nicely together here, black's pawn is weak, and you just give up that b5 square. So,
Can I ask
yeah.
when you're playing this system as black, what do you think about your pawn on d6?
So when I'm playing this system with black and the pawn on d6.
Because it's a backward pawn on a open file?
We'll address that in a moment. It will become more obvious. It will become more obvious as to this d6 pawn because I started thinking about it and I decided to take the safe approach. But for now, I need to get my queen out of the way, okay? Because I want to give up my bishop. So I just put let's see. I play queen c7. My opponent plays bishop to b2. There's a nice looking position for white, who is ahead in development. Yeah, that's easy. White is ahead in development. Got all the pieces lined up. And I actually started off kind of chill. It's not, once again, not my type of move here. Black actually, I don't know who counted the moves? Queen b6. Let me think about it. Bishop d3. Bishop c5, bishop b7, bishop d3, castle, castle, d6, b4, knight b7, bishop b2. I think that's the position we have on the board. Queen c7, and it's white to move. So let's put this rook over to d1. And here I picked